Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Greg Claxton of the Metro Planning Commission. He's in charge of redistricting here in Nashville based on the 2020 U.S. Census. Greg, where's the growth in Davidson County? Is it uniform across the county? And who are these new residents? Are they more natives? Are they more infield people coming to Nashville? And those folks, are they couples? Are they unmarried? And what about children? They have a lot of children coming in as well?
Sure. So those are all very, very natural questions. And anytime that there's news about the census coming out, we get kind of requests for kind of all range of understanding kind of the characteristics of people in Davidson County. Unfortunately, the decennial census itself is very, very narrowly focused on just population counts. And the first release, what came out recently, is really set up just for the redistricting process. So we have a lot of information relevant for redistricting, kind of the total population, the voting age population, race and ethnic breakdown. We don't have some of that more granular data of, what kind of households people have. Is it how many people are living alone? How many people are living with children? And it's just a snapshot. So we don't actually have anything on sort of, if you're in a place, where did you come from? Like, is that a household? Is it like people who were living there in 2010? And since 2010, they had 3 kids. And so now the population of their household is more than doubled, or did more people move in? Like, it's just a snapshot right now. And we aren't able to sort of tell that fuller story. That said, the first part of your question, the growth has not been even throughout Nashville. It's definitely, there are definitely areas that have grown a lot faster than the county as a whole, areas that have not grown or even declined a little bit. The growth that we're seeing is primarily, there's a lot of growth in and around downtown. There's tremendous amount of growth in several council districts in the Antioch and Southeast area. And then we're also seeing a fair amount of growth out in Bellevue, in kind of the suburban part of Bellevue.
No matter how much the city has grown, there'll still be only 35 council districts. What's your population goal to keep the districts roughly about the same in population size?
Sure. So what we call the average district size, or the ideal, is sort of the tent pole that we work around as we do redistricting. What we're looking for there is an average district size of 20,454 people. Now we've got a little bit of leeway there. We kind of keep it within plus or minus 5%. We're about 1,000 people. So we're looking for the smallest district size to be about 19,400. The smallest, or the largest one, to be about 21,400.
No matter how much larger you make these districts or smaller, they sometimes look strange in appearance. How do you avoid that? Is there a size or shape when we see the map that feels like you've done the best job because of that particular size, geometrically?
Sure. So generally there's a lot of different ways of measuring that. It's called compactness, and there's a lot of kind of specific measurements of it. What they're generally looking for is something that's, more or less a circle. Like, that is the most compact shape that you can get. Now, I will say that there's a lot of reasons why you might not have a shape that's as compact as it could be. So I would think about a district like Council District 15, which is Donaldson and Pennington Bend. It's kind of a long district because it goes up the bend. Because of that, it scores very, relatively poorly on those compactness measures. It shows up, kind of regardless of how exactly you measure it, as being less compact than other districts. On the other hand,
go ahead. Well, in drawing the lines, do you consider rivers and interstates and major roads to be the boundaries for these districts? Sometimes the Planning Commission has done that in some years, sometimes they've not.
Yeah, those are definitely very strong boundaries to have. I mean, anything that sort of creates a coherent sense of community, where you, like in Pennington Bend, you don't cross the river over into Neely's Bend. Like, that creates a really good boundary. Same for interstates. We're looking for kind of ways to keep communities whole, people who have some shared fate, some common interests. We want to keep those together. So that's the fundamental thing that we're going for. I
know your goal is to try to keep neighborhoods together. That can be difficult to do. You might have one idea of where the neighborhood is, but when you talk to the neighbors out there, it may tell you a totally different story.
Sure, definitely, and it is kind of going back to what I say. We want to keep sort of people with a shared interest, some common fate together. Neighborhood associations are a major way that people sort of organize themselves to do that. That's one of the reasons we did the public survey that we have out right now, where we're asking people like, what's your interest in redistricting, but also tell us what your community is, and then we've got an opportunity for people to sort of draw in on a map. Here's where I mean. And so we're seeing a lot of neighborhood associations come in through that. We've got kind of our own list of those, and that's something that we'll work with both of those to see, as much as we can we keep those within a district rather than sort of having lines cut across a district.
You've got an interactive website to try to help do that. Where can people find that website if they want to go online and help?
Sure. So that's at redistrict.nashville.gov. And we've got kind of background on the process, how to find out what's going on, how to get on an email list to find out as we move through things, as well as taking the survey and letting us know kind of what your sense of your community is.
Over the years, as the Planning Commission has drawn the lines, particularly in the inner city, the districts had to go further and further out geographically to find more population. This time you've mentioned one of the big areas for growth has been in the inner city and the inner loop. Might we see, based on the 2020 census, that for the first time, at least in metro history, we'll see those districts in the inner city start to compact a little bit because they've got more population in those areas?
I would expect so, yeah. We've got on our website as well something where you can look at how the districts have changed over time, going back to 1963. And you definitely see, like the 1963 map, there's a ton of very small districts in the urban core, and they move out every cycle. This time, you're right, District 19, which includes downtown, is the largest district, the most populous district. So as we would certainly expect that district, maybe a couple others around it, to shrink. Certainly in population, probably in geography as well.
Greg Claxton is our guest. He's the person at the Metro Planning and Codes Department who's in charge of redistricting Nashville after the 2020 census. Back to continue our conversation with Greg after you watch these messages. Stay with us.